So Lewis is here from the city of Somerville. He's one of the building inspectors. He says he's with the multifamily side of things. Anything that's related to fire escape, Lewis here is the one that's doing that. So we actually pulled this off of somewhere in Massachusetts, off an elementary school, as of December 19th of this year. So this was actually being used by school children of kindergarten all the way to 8th grade into a schoolyard. And the question I have, and I show this to a lot of times, this is our first showing ever of such a piece to help you really bring it home, is that school children were going up and down this every day. So with the teachers, administrators, but also every year a firefighter and or a building inspector doing their yearly inspection walked through this fire escape, and there was never a violation. The only reason I replaced this fire escape is because the facilities guy said, I don't think you can fix this anymore, can you remove it? So we came out and we basically showed, you see, look how much rust. Look how much, you can put the false, see the nut is still there, but look, it's missing. So, and if you look at here, see this is a notorious area for rotting through. You can put your fingers through in a lot, and a lot of times, whenever you get somebody that gets one of these fire escapes, the first thing that shows up is a welding guy. And welding guys, I don't know if you know, but the EPA doesn't let you weld on fire escapes anymore because you're burning lead. This orange base is a lead base. And so with a lead base, what you have is the EPA says you can't put a flame to anything that's lead. You can't do it in your house, you can't do it outside. So now, but this is typical of the way they would fix this fire escape. The first thing they would do is weld the nose, but leave the rust. If there was a lot of rust in there, they did what's done in here. I doctored this up, so this wasn't 100% this way. I doctored it up a little bit to show the wrong way to fix it. They take a little piece of steel, drop it in there, and they weld it here and weld it here, but leave the rust. As soon as the rust starts growing, what's going to happen is it's going to tear all these welds. Anybody that has welding experience knows if you leave the rust in place, 1 to 3 years from now, it's going to break, it'll detach. But the cycle on this is every 5 years. So here they are doing repairs, emergency repairs we call them, that may last a year or two, but it's going to last for 5. And so this is what's happening out there. There's a lot of people that sometimes don't even have the skill to weld, that are welding. Whereas anybody who doesn't have the skill to weld but has the skill to put in a bolt, this is professional. This is incorrect. But it's the same guy. If you make the same guy who works for an ironwork company, not welded, but just change the bolt, and you see that on that example over there, nobody with limited skills has to weld any of this. If they just change those bolts, the fire escape doesn't need to be load tested because you change the bolts. So we thought we'd bring this out to show this takes 25 to 50 years of growth. When it's a half inch, it's almost 50 years of unchecked growth. 50 years that this thing has been used to basically have children go up and down, school teachers, and you know what happens as soon as somebody hurts themselves? Guess who they call? Guess whose fault it is that somebody got hurt on a fire escape?
I remember most of the time I installed this.
This was installed 75 years ago. If my kid fell on this fire escape, you know who and this fire escape was in your city, you know the first one they hang is the inspector, because you're supposed to have caught this.
Well, most of the time when we're going through the inspection, that is what we request. At least in summer, we have as a policy to request an engineer go out.
Correct.
And work together with the installer to see what is missing and what pieces need to be replaced.
Right. What happens, and that's a very good thing, what we're going to teach today is when an engineer does go out and notices this, he'll create a nice little beautiful letter. The installer goes out without that letter. The installer goes out and fixes it the way he wants. The installer then paints this and puts as much silicone over it as he can. Then the engineer who was supposed to be overseeing it, guess when he gets called in? When it's still in the repair stage, where he can clearly see, this should be the point when the engineer should be called back